Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of the Faith Through the Fire podcast. I am your host, Kayla Livingstone, and I'm just so honored you're here. I'm so honored that you're giving this podcast a chance, and I'm just excited to get to know you get to know me, and just go on this journey together. Today, I'm kind of just going to talk a little bit about the heart behind this podcast, kind of my why, and then also just share a little bit of my story. So about a year ago, my sister and I honestly over a year ago now, I guess, really had it on our hearts to maybe do this. And I've kind of had it on my heart for a while, but just never had the courage to start it, honestly. And we took a bunch of steps to start one, and then just neither of us really felt peace about it. And so we didn't. And then another one of my friends and I talked about it more recently, but also just didn't feel peace about it, and kind of just got to the point where I knew God was putting it on my heart so strongly, and he kind of just brought me to the point where I was like, okay, if I don't do this, I'm going to be disobeying. And so here we are. I had wanted to start it with someone, but I felt like he kind of just asked me to start it alone. And so here we are. I am very excited for this journey, though. I know that whatever he wants to do is going to be amazing. And so, yeah, thank you for tuning in and just being willing to listen. So the heart behind the podcast is about 2 years ago, the Lord just kind of started me on this journey of believing him for something. I believe he gave me this promise, and I just haven't seen him fulfill it in the natural yet. I haven't seen it come to fruition. And he's just taken me on this wild journey of just believing his character and believing who he says he is, and believing just him at his word, even when none of my circumstances look what I think him being good is, if that makes sense. And so he's taken me on this journey of just faith over feelings, and just choosing to believe over what I see, and truly just walking by faith and not by sight. And it's been probably the hardest journey he's asked me to go on, and one that has probably tried me every day. But in that, I've just gotten to grow so close to him and just see him in such a different way. And this podcast is just being born out of desperately wanting to encourage other people who may be going through similar things, who may be just believing the Lord for something, or for healing, or for a miracle, and just knowing that he can do it, knowing that he wants to do it, knowing that he will do it, but that weight of just feeling so lonely and just so isolated and just in desperate need of encouragement. And so my biggest hope and prayer for this podcast is just that it would encourage anyone and everyone every single week, and just be a safe place to come, and just that the Lord would use it to fill up your cup and fill up your heart and fuel your faith and help you to keep pressing forward one foot at a time, just to keep walking in faith of the Lord and who he says he is and his character. And, when we can't trace his hand, we can still trust his heart. And I think that is just the biggest thing he's been teaching me is I have to trust his heart, and he says he's good. And so even though nothing may look good or feel good or seem good, he says he's good. And so he is being good to me. But that journey, day in and day out battle, can be so hard. It can be so lonely, can feel so isolating. And so if I can just help anyone feel a little less alone or a little less lonely in it or isolated, this will be a success. And it's already a success because I'm saying yes to the Lord. But I know that he wants to use this to encourage people. And so that's just my heart. Honestly, I am a very vulnerable person. I will always pour out my heart and just be honest. And I'm here for the Lord. And so I'm excited. Title, Faith Through the Fire, was kind of born out of the verse in Daniel chapter 2, verse 16, which I'm going to read it in case you don't know it. And a little bit of context. This is when King Nebuchadnezzar wants all of his people to bow down to him. And if they don't, he's going to throw them in the fire. And so everyone bows down except for these 3 men. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to him, King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. this verse has been my anthem and a verse I have like white knuckle gripped for the past 2 years. And just one I have said to the Lord probably almost every day of like, Lord, I know that you're good. I know that you're going to be good to me in this. I know that you're going to fulfill your promises. I know that you are who you say you are. I know you can do this, but Lord, even if you don't, like, I'm still going to choose you. I'm still going to praise you. You're still worthy of my life, my heart, my soul, my mind. Like, you're still worthy of it all. And I will still every day get on my knees and praise you. And it's just been a verse that has constantly pointed me back to Jesus, because I think when walking a journey of faith, it can very much feel like it's on you, and very much feel like if you don't say the right thing, or if you don't do the right thing, or if you're not in the right place at the right time, it's not going to happen. And it can just be so easy to get caught up in that trap. And yet I feel like this verse constantly humbles me and just brings me right back to the feet of Jesus, of just like, Lord, I am at your feet. Like, I cannot do this without you. I need you to come through like you've said you would. And Lord, even if you don't, like, you're still good. And just like reminding my soul, and just like telling my soul. I think of David in the Psalms where he just like constantly like, oh, my soul, we will praise the Lord. And I just feel like this verse has been that for me, of like, I don't feel like you are being good in any area, Lord, but oh, my soul, we're going to praise the Lord. Like, he is good. And if he does nothing good for me ever again, like, the cross is enough. And I am entitled at times, and I think I should get things, and he should do things on my timeline. And so I think this verse has just constantly been one that has just brought me back to his feet. And so in that, about like a few months into this journey he started a couple years ago, I felt like he kind of just spoke to me and said, faith through the fire, hand in hand, I will make sure you come out unburned. And I've just also clung to that of just like, no, like I'm in the fire, and there's another in the fire with me, and I'm going to come out untouched because of him and his power. And that's just been so comforting. And that's what he did for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Like, he stood in the fire with them, and they came out not even smelling like it, you know? And I know that he's going to do that for me in this journey. And I know that he's going to do that for any single person who is on a journey like this. And we all are waiting on the Lord for something. We're all believing him for something, whether we can put words to it or not. And so I think, I just pray that you're encouraged by this, and that the Lord uses this to just bless you. Okay, so moving on to my story, I'm going to give a little bit of a trigger warning. I do talk about abuse. I talk about mental health and suicide a little bit. And so if that's something that's triggering, like, please don't feel like you have to listen. But also, if you do want to stay, the story gets so incredible, and just the Lord's redemption is just amazing. And so I promise the ending will be good, but it is dark there for a little bit. So I was born into this little community in New Brunswick, Canada, and I was born into what anyone outside of the community would call a cult. So I'll set it up for you a little bit. It's like a gated community. There's like rows and rows of houses. It's a multi-million-dollar business. There was a self-sustaining farm where all of us kids worked on. So it was set up where you never had to leave. Like, we made it for a while. We made our own milk and cheese and yogurt and breads and desserts and like all the things. There was like a store where we would go to like grocery shop essentially. And yeah, it was just set up where you never had to leave. And so the one really cool thing about it was like my farthest friend away was maybe a 5-minute walk, and you never worried about being kidnapped or like anyone hurting you. Like, it was very safe. And so in that respect. And so yeah, that's where I was born. My mom was born into it, and my dad's family moved into it when my dad was very young. And so for over 40 years, like, it's all my parents knew. I was born, and I just came out this little spitfire, gullible little girl who was just super free to be herself, which was not a common thing there. That was shut down very quickly. You were supposed to kind of stuff down your feelings. If you disagreed with anything the leaders said, that was a no-no. Like, you just didn't. Your actual opinions didn't matter. Your feelings didn't matter. If you had feelings about anything, you were kind of just brushed off or called dramatic, or at least this is my experience. Everything, obviously, I'm talking about in my story in the cult is my experience with the cult. I think some people have had great experiences, some people have had worse, and some have had in between. So obviously, like, this is my experience with the cult. And so I started going to school when I was like 3 or 4 years old. And my very first memory is walking into the girls' bathroom and just immediately being fun of for how I looked. The dress code at the school were like knee-high socks, um, long skirts, and like a plaid shirt or like a pleated shirt. So not like the greatest look ever. And I also rocked a mushroom cut or bowl cut. So, you know, wasn't looking my greatest. But I'm 3 or 4 years old, and I immediately just start getting called these awful names by some of the high school girls, and they're just making fun of me. And I remember just instantly like shrinking and just my heart dropping and just feeling so incredibly helpless. I didn't know what they were making fun of exactly. I didn't know what I had done wrong, and like worst of all, I didn't know how to fix it. And so I just remember feeling like incredibly small and just incredibly like rejected and not wanted. And that marked me. Like I would have so much fear going into the girls' bathroom after that. I would like walk in and like expect to be made fun of. There were not very many people that went to the school. There was like maybe 20, 25 kids going to school when I first started going. So very small. And so you just were constantly around people. And you just knew them all very well. The teachers at the school also really didn't like me. I'm not, honestly, to this day, entirely sure why. I know that I was a little bit more of like an outspoken child, and so maybe they just weren't used to that. All of the teachers were just moms being paid to try and teach us. They were not professionals. And so I was just I was just treated really horribly. I was put in detention like every day, at least 3 times a week. And detention there is like you're put out in the hallway for anyone to walk by to see, and you have to stay out there at least through like a class so that when people switch, like have break in between classes, they would see you're sitting in the hallway. So it's like designed to be humiliating. And I remember like so many times people walking past and me just wanting to like scream at them, like, I'm not in trouble because I did anything wrong, but like no one would believe me, no one would understand. And I just like very quickly learned that my voice and my feelings and what was what was the truth wasn't going to be believed, and just like no one really cared. And I was just extremely bullied. My friends were friends some days, and other days they would pick on me and do everything they could to get a reaction out of me, and make up stories about me sometimes just so I'd get in trouble because I would give a reaction for that. And so I was just like really picked on. I felt very unsafe at school. It did not feel like a place I ever wanted to be. And my home life like wasn't really a ton better. I'm going to talk about my parents and some of the pain that I experienced with them. And my like hope and prayer is that in this, like, I want to just honor them and be so respectful. And, you know, they're part of my story of pain. But the beautiful thing is like the redemption of the Lord. And so in this, he has brought so much redemption to our relationship, which has just made it so much more beautiful. And so, yeah, I can't wait to tell you about that. But when I was young, they were pretty, like, they just did their best. They loved us so much, and they raised us better than they were raised. And that's all they could do. That's all they knew, right? Like, they were treated way worse than we were. But a thing at this cult was you were just like not as accepted if you weren't super stick thin. And so from when I can remember, like, I was always being called fat or too big, or hearing my mom talk to her friends about how worried she was that I was fat and that I wasn't going to be pretty, and like strangers coming up to me being like, oh, don't worry, one day you'll be pretty, and like being told I was the ugly duckling, but like we're praying you'll be a beautiful swan one day. And just like all kinds of things like that. And like I didn't know anything different, but obviously ingrains in you. Like I never thought being called pretty was ever going to be an option for me. Like that was like what I would daydream about. And so I just grew up hating myself. Like I'd go to bed every night and like plead with God that I would wake up the next day a different person, like not Kayla, because I hated who he had made me to be. And when I was 6 years old, a family member started to sexually abuse me. And this went on for a few years. And I just remember it's happening. And I remember just the cloud of like darkness and just sin that was over my head, and I didn't exactly know what was wrong. I didn't know what was going on. I knew it probably shouldn't be happening, but then also I didn't really know. I knew no one would ever believe me if I said anything, and so I just had to keep it to myself. And I remember just being scared, hating it, hating going home, and just literally feeling like I was an orphan. Like I just didn't feel safe anywhere. I didn't feel like I had a home anywhere, and I didn't want to be there. And so finally this stopped. And then when I was 12, we were able to get out of the cult, and we moved just across the street or across the river to this beautiful home, and started to just adjust to the real world, which was like such a crazy culture shock. I could talk about that forever. Like the craziest culture shock. I was the most sheltered kid ever, and just like we didn't really watch movies at the cult. We didn't really listen to music. Like if you listened to country music, you were kind of considered like bad when I was there. And like you couldn't listen to anything other than like hymns, or you were kind of like, going off the deep end a little bit. And so I was just so incredibly sheltered, and the real world was just a major shock. And I was honestly so depressed for like the first 6 months. I just wanted to go back, which I think the enemy like really tends to do to us. Sometimes we want to go back to like the terrible place because that's what we're used to, when in reality, like just on the other side of it, if we can just bear that uncomfortability for just a little bit longer, like God has something so much more beautiful. And so we started going to this little church down the road and got to know a pastor and his wife, and they had little kids. And so I started babysitting for them, and they honestly helped me so much, just like adjust to the real world, and educated me on a lot of things, and just like helped me learn kind of what it was like to be like a normal 13-year-old girl. I quickly got into the wrong crowd of friends, and quickly just became addicted to validation and addicted to hearing that I was beautiful. The very first guy that ever called me pretty was 3 years older than me. I was 13 at the time. He was 16, which in New Brunswick, that's illegal to like date someone, or like to to really date someone that's that much older than you. Well, we dated, and I think in the 2 weeks that we dated, it was only 2 weeks. Yes, I know. He was arrested at least twice. And one of the times I was there, but like, I didn't care because he wanted me. And that just kind of goes to show you like the frame of mind I was in. Like all I wanted was to be loved and chosen and desired. And I did not care in the world who that was. I would be that for anyone, I would give myself to anyone who wanted me. So after about 2 years in, I was about 14 at the time. My relationship with the pastor kind of just shifted. He started to call me beautiful and just tell me things that no one 20 plus years older than a minor should be telling someone. And I remember I was just so conflicted, because there was this part of me that's like, someone wants me, like someone sees me, someone desires me. And this is so bad. He's married and has kids, and it is 20 some years older than me. And I had that conflict in my brain for a long time. I was terrified. Like I couldn't say anything to anyone, and just progressed from there. And he ended up raping me. And I just was stuck in this situation where I knew it wasn't right. Like I knew that what was going on was wrong. And yet, like, he made me to believe that this was my only chance at ever being loved. And I fell for that. And so I was just like, you know what? I'll be in this forever. It doesn't matter, because he loves me, even though he definitely didn't. But I didn't care. Like, I mean, I did care and I hated it, but like I was loved. And so that's all that mattered. Finally, after a few months, I broke, and I just told someone everything. And it was so freeing to just get to tell all the secrets about my family members and all the secrets about the pastor, but then also like heartbreaking and just horrific at the same time. My parents very quickly started a court case with the pastor, but told me that I should just forgive and forget what the family member had done. And like, I tried so hard. I tried so hard to just forgive and forget what had happened. And I couldn't, like, the betrayal and the hurt runs so deep. And I felt so used. I really believed that's all I was created for. And I felt so betrayed. And I was hurting so bad, and I was so angry. So we battled this court case for the next 6 months, and those 6 months were just so dark. I came from a very small town where the pastor was very well known, and even though we like tried to keep my name private, everyone and their mother found out it was me. And one of the ways was the pastor made an Instagram account where he drew pictures of me and posted them on there, and how I made his heart bleed, and would like write captions on how I made his heart bleed or how heartbroken he was or whatever. And he would draw pictures I had posted on my Instagram. And I mean, I'll give it to him. He's a fantastic artist, and you could tell it was me just by looking at it. And so that's how a lot of people found out. But then also just my small town gossips all the time. And so a lot of people would come up to me knowing it was me and be like, oh, I'm so heartbroken. I haven't eaten. And like, I literally can't even tell you the pain I'm in right now because of this. And like, so many people would come tell me that. And yet like, I'd be the one like barely surviving, like fighting for my life and being like, and I wouldn't say this to them, but I felt like, do you not see me? Like, I'm the one hurting so bad. And I would go on Facebook, and I was being smashed. Like, I was bashed all throughout Facebook. And like a lot of people would just comment like, oh, his poor wife, his poor kids. And like, yes, that's horrible. And I can't even imagine how badly it affected them. But like, I was also hurting so badly, and it just felt like no one was acknowledging me. And I was just like, I'm literally dying here and no one knows. And it was just the loneliest, most isolated I've probably ever felt. And just like, it did not seem like it was worth it to keep living. So the day of the court case came, and it was the most empowering day where I got to just kind of try and explain how badly I was hurting, and the darkest day of my life all at the same time. That night I fell into the deepest and darkest hole of guilt that I have ever experienced before. It was all consuming. I could not believe that I had sent someone to jail. I could not believe that it was me coming forth with something that was making someone go to jail. And I didn't understand it was his actions. Like I thought it was all my fault. That night I just like, I was done. Like I couldn't keep fighting anymore. I couldn't hate myself more. I just couldn't keep doing it. And, so that night I took a bunch of medicine, went to sleep, and honestly didn't think I'd ever wake up again. And, woke up the next morning, and by the grace of God, and I remember that day like not being able to comprehend the fact that I had tried to end my life the night before and no one knew. Like, to everyone on the outside who saw me, I was fine, but no one knew that night I had tried, like the night before I had tried to end my life. And so I kept existing, I kept surviving. And the night before his sentencing date, I was laying in bed just consumed by this guilt from head to toe. And I just prayed, and I said, Lord, like, I don't know if you're here. I don't know if you see me. I don't know if you care. But Lord, like, if there's any way you can take this guilt, I plead with you to take it. Like, you can, like, I can handle the pain. I can handle everything else, but this guilt is what's going to kill me. And I immediately felt it. I felt the burden of it in my toes. I felt it come up my legs. I felt it come up my stomach. I felt it come up my arms. I felt it come through my head. And I felt him grab it from the air and take it from me. And I jolted up in bed, like completely was like, there's no way you just did that. There's no way. And I tried to remind myself of all the ways I should feel guilty. And I couldn't feel it. Like, the Lord completely supernaturally delivered me from that. And I remembered the next day just weeping in the courtroom because I thought for sure I'd feel guilty when I saw him in shackles, but I didn't. Like, I felt free. And to like kind of explain to you how guilty I felt, I had literally written a letter to the judge trying to tell him to send me to jail instead of the pastor, because I would rather take the pain than put that pain on someone else. And up to this point, honestly, I would have told you I was a Christian probably, but I was not walking with the Lord. And I wish I could say that deliverance caused me to start walking with the Lord, but it didn't. I was so angry. I could not even begin to fathom how a good God would let me go through that stuff. And I was in survival mode, and I sold my soul. I sold my body to whoever would look at it. I couldn't ever fathom saying no to someone who wanted me. And so whether I liked them or not, whether I was attracted to them or not, like I gave myself to them because I couldn't imagine saying no to someone who actually wanted me and was validating me and making me feel loved and seen, even if it was just for a few seconds. I lived like this for the next few years. I hooked up with so many people and tried to just find all of my worth in boys, and I found none of it there. And I honestly felt so much worse, but I didn't know anything different. I just didn't. And so in 2020, I moved to New Hampshire for nursing school, and I lived with my aunt and uncle for the first year. And there are two people who are part of the huge reason I'm alive today. I believe the Lord really used them to just walk beside me, and they were non-judgmental. They just listened, and they were there for me, whatever I needed, when not very many people were. And I very quickly got into a relationship with this boy who I had loved since I was 12. I met him one time visiting my aunt and uncle in New Hampshire. His family was friends with my family. And we started dating right away, and it was just this sweet relationship at first. And unfortunately, like, I was just so broken in so many ways. I was so unhealed in so many ways, and I just should have never jumped into a relationship that quickly. And I was toxic, and I broke up with him and we'd get back together, and then I would break up with him and we'd get back together, and it was just very up and down. And I was looking at him to be my savior, and I was looking at him to heal all the parts of me. And of course that was like an unrealistic expectation to put on him. And so of course I was feeling unfulfilled in that. And then I'm sure he was also slightly immature too. And so like, it didn't work out. And I regret how I handled it. And, but I knew that if I wanted to pursue the Lord, like, we weren't living in purity. And so I knew if I wanted to pursue the Lord, I probably needed to like give up that relationship. And so I did, and lukewarm started to pursue the Lord, and moved back home to Canada the summer of 21 for just the summer. And, ended up running into this guy I had gone to high school with who had started a Bible study, and he invited me to the Bible study that night. And I, said I ended up not going to the Bible study, and I went to a party instead, because in my mind that was going to be more fun. And this guy ended up like really hurting my feelings at the party. And I remember sitting in my car waiting to sober up enough so I could drive home, and just, I've never felt more empty. And I remember just thinking, is this all that life is? Because if so, I don't want it. And immediately I felt the Lord just enter the passenger seat of my car, and I lost it. I broke down. I wept. And I right then and there gave my life to the Lord. I was just like, Lord, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, you are the Lord of my life. Please come in and just do what only you can do, and send me to China tomorrow. Like, I don't care. I'm yours. And so I just drove home and woke up the next morning and was just a transformed person. And I think the Lord's just so kind, because when he meets us where we're at, like, I never felt pressured by him to just give everything up. Like, he slowly just worked in my heart to not want to do certain things. And hooking up with guys were just the last thing for me to like fully surrender to him and give up, because it was where I found my validation. And I wasn't perfect in it, but I moved back to New Hampshire to continue nursing school that fall, and ended up reconnecting with this boy who I had been in a relationship previously, and he had also found the Lord that summer. And so we were kind of coming together and being like, okay, can we make this work? And just figuring that out. And I just like really, again, like, yes, I had met the Lord and he had transformed my life, and I had so much healing to walk through. And I ended up just ending that again, and in a way that I'm not super proud of, and in a way that I've dealt with a lot of guilt over and shame. And I think I want to be honest about just how much the Lord has done and how much he's still doing. And so I guess I'll come back around to that. But over the next year, the Lord just took me on this journey of falling in love with him. I had no friends. It was just me and the Lord. And I just got to know him on such a deep and intimate level. And then I met a community of people who have just come around me and supported me and loved me. And I've been in extensive therapy and just really gone on this wild journey of healing with the Lord. And he took me on this forgiveness journey of just forgiving my family member and my parents. And it was so hard to forgive them because I thought in my unforgiveness it was showing them the pain I had gone through, but instead it was just hurting me. And the Lord had to bring me to this place of acceptance that they're never going to understand the pain I went through, and that they helped cause me to go through, and that's okay. Like that's between them and the Lord. And so, yeah, I remember one time just in the shower, like being like, Lord, how do you expect me to forgive these people who've hurt me so badly? And I just felt him say, because I've forgiven you. And it was just like one of those light bulb moments where I was just like, oh, like, yeah. And so I just then started to pursue relationships with them. And the Lord just over time worked in my heart. And honestly, like he has just done incredible miracles in my family. Like my parents are two of my very best friends. I never thought I would say that. Our family was so broken up for so many years, and now the Lord is slowly putting us back together, and it's been beautiful to watch and just see him do miracles and see the redemption he's brought. And we're not perfect, like there's still so much healing, but the Lord has been so kind in just how radically he has come in and just done what only he can do in my family's life. And so, yeah, like it's been incredible. And I just hope that this is encouraging to anyone who may be going through stuff with your family is broken up, or you're begging the Lord for healing. Like he's going to do it. He will do it. Just keep pressing in. Like I know there was a community of people praying for me. I know there's a community of people praying for my family. And I'm sure at times it felt hopeless that I was ever going to come back to the Lord. And yet, like, he works in ways that we just don't understand. And I don't even understand all the ways he's worked in me, honestly. Sometimes it's just as much a surprise to me as it is to everyone else. But God is so good, and he's so faithful, and he does reward those who earnestly seek him. I do kind of want to touch, though, on just kind of where I'm at currently. I think it's so easy to talk about how much the Lord has done and how faithful he's been. And there's still so much healing I'm walking through. There's still so much I'm believing the Lord for. And that's kind of what this podcast is all about and is for, is like I'm still believing the Lord for this. And I know he's going to come through because he's done it before, and I know he's going to do it again. And I know he's faithful. And like, I honestly have dealt with a lot of guilt over how I was in that relationship. And it's easy to not be tempted by the what ifs of like, oh, if I was healed, what if? Or if this hadn't happened, what if? And like, that's just such an easy way for the enemy to get in. And I've felt a lot of regret over how I acted and how I treated this person. And honestly, like, when you're hurt so badly, you don't think you could ever hurt anyone. And in that, I think hurt people. And I know that I hurt so many people when I was hurting so badly. And in the moment, I never thought I could ever hurt someone, because how would I hurt someone that, like, when I was hurting so badly? Like, I would never do that to anyone else. But in that, like, so unaware, I hurt so many people. And to this day, like, it grieves me sometimes. And I have to go to the Lord and just give it back to him, because I know he's forgiven me, and I'm learning to forgive myself, and I have to trust the hearts of those people that I hurt with the Lord too, that he's going to use that in their life, and he's going to heal them too in that, and bring them closer to him. But that's been such a journey, if I'm being so honest. I think if you're anyone who's been hurt so badly, you'll probably understand the like thought process that you can never hurt anyone else. Like, because how would you, if you like, you've been hurt so badly, like it's impossible for you to hurt someone, but it's not. And I've learned that the very hard way. And so, yeah, that's just one of the journeys the Lord's been on. Sometimes I'm still so overwhelmed because I'm like, wow, like there's so much healing to be done. I still sometimes ache over what's happened to me. I still sometimes go to the Lord and being like, why am I still struggling? Like, why am I still bearing the consequences of other people's actions on me? Like, how is that fair? Like, I go to the Lord with that all the time, and it can be so frustrating because it feels like I'm back to square one. And that is like exactly what the enemy wants to make us think, is that we're back just to where we started. But I'm just here to encourage you today. Like, you are not back to where you started. If you fell into that sin again, you are not back to where you started. Like, just pick right back up, repent, and keep going. Like, the biggest thing the enemy wants us to make us feel is like a failure and like we're just right back at the beginning. And that is such a lie. Like, healing is not linear. Healing from sin isn't linear. Like, healing from anything isn't linear. And like, it is just a journey, and the Lord's grace is incredible and so kind. And so I just want to encourage you, like, keep going back to the feet of Jesus, keep repenting, keep going to his feet, keep going and asking for forgiveness, keep asking him for help, like, keep holding on to the hem of his garment. He's going to see you through. He's going to come through. He's going to do miracles in your life. He's going to redeem all of the years. Like, he's going to do above all that you could have ever asked, thought, or imagine. And I'm believing that for you. And I have faith for you when you can't have faith for yourself. And so I just hope and pray that with whatever you're walking through, like, this makes you feel just a little bit less lonely and a little bit less isolated and just a little bit more seen, because know that I see you, know that you're not alone, know that God sees you, know that he's working behind the scenes to redeem your story. And the verse that just kept coming to my mind this whole podcast is the verse that just says, like, his ways are higher than my ways and his thoughts are higher than my thoughts. And I never would have thought that I would give my life to the Lord sobering up in my car. You know, I never thought that's where he would work in my life, to like give my life to the Lord. And yet that is where he worked, and it's beautiful. And so you just never know how the Lord's working. And I just encourage you to keep holding on, keep having faith, keep pressing forward. I promise you that God is going to see you through. I promise he's going to prove himself faithful. And I promise that you will look back and thank him for the trials that he's allowed you to go through and the scars he's trusted you to hold on to. And that just in it, you will get to see his glory. So that is my story. I hope that you just are encouraged and lifted up, and just know that I love you, know that I'm believing with you and for you, and know that I'm praying for you. I'll see you next week.